What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the FD Movie Podcast. I am your host, Brandon. Alongside me always is Chris.
Hello.
And joining us once again is Andrew Christeson. Thank you very much.
How's it going, everybody?
And also thank you again for the opening music again. That was awesome. That's
yes,
awesome.
Thank you.
Hope I did John Carpenter proud.
I hope so too.
Probably.
Because this is a very serious podcast.
If he sobers up to listen to it.
If he stops smoking weed and playing video games for 1 second to listen to it, then this is a very important podcast to me. Anyway, and
should be to the whole world.
It should be to everybody, ever.
Yeah.
In the history. If you can't get on board with Halloween, then I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah. I don't know what you could get on board with if you're not on board with Halloween.
Exactly. It's like one of the best franchises of all time.
Yeah.
In the horror genre, anyway.
Yeah. There's been a few times I just about thought I was going to have to leave it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I never did.
Yeah, of course. So, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. But yeah, today obviously is the discussion is Halloween films. And even 3, even though it wasn't Michael Myers, we're gonna and even the bastard.
Yeah, I got a lot to say about
even
that.
the bastard movies. I like to call them the bastards, just like 3 of the Rob Zombie films, because I don't like really to count them. But we'll get into those too. We'll talk about all of it. And we're going to kick it off with number 1. Just get right into it because we have a lot to cover. We're going to do 2 parts to this one too, just like we did with Friday the 13th.
Have to.
Yeah, releasing today is October 30th. We'll be releasing it today and doing the second part also. We'll release that tomorrow to finish it up on Halloween Day. And I figured that's the best time to do this.
Yeah.
It's Halloween, obviously. So without further ado, let's get into movie number 1. And if I... not mistaken, you've watched these pretty early, right, in life?
Oh yeah,
Because I mean, I've the first time I've seen these, I was a kid, so I'm pretty sure I was wanting to make sure. And Andrew, you're pretty new to the franchise, though.
Yeah, I'd seen 1 a few years ago, but Brandon let me borrow 2 through 10.
Yeah, through all of them. Yeah.
So a lot of these I saw for the first time 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
so,
that's quite that's quite a crash course too.
Oh, it is. And I let me tell you, I'm excited for you because this is such a cool franchise, at least for me. And I know you're a movie buff. I know you're a horror movie buff too. So I figured you'd be. Yeah.
Well, I know. Me and Brandon both were excited to talk to you more about it. Like the more and more we could talk about it, the more fun it was for us.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I didn't have a lot of people to talk. Like, I've been a huge fan of this franchise for many years, and I don't have a lot of people to talk to about it. Like, the extent of like other movie buffs that love movies like this too that I can talk to. So it's pretty cool.
Well, my grandma is a huge Halloween fan. So if you ever need to go talk to somebody, you can go talk to my Nana.
Hey, Nana.
She's been to every single one of them up to H2O in the theater. Every single one.
Really?
Very first day.
That's awesome.
I mean,
my mom actually went with her cousin back in 78-ish. I'd say it was because I don't know how long it was in theater. They were in theaters a lot longer back in those days.
Yeah, than they are now.
Because it took, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but it took it quite a while to actually take off.
The
first one. So, but I remember her saying it was like December. It was cold anyway, and there was snow on the ground. And her and her cousin, they were in St. Louis. They watched it in St. Louis.
Oh God!
And it was late at night.
Yeah.
And it was like snow on the ground. No one was around, and they just remember walking out of the theater. She'd always told me how creepy it was walking out of that movie and then walking out into the parking lot. Snow on the ground. No one's around. Quiet. Scary as shit.
Yeah.
Wow. And yeah, right after you watch Halloween.
Yeah.
In the city. So yeah, that would. Do
you remember?
St. Louis is already scary as it is.
Right.
Do you remember your first time?
My first time, I don't remember the year. I don't remember what age I was. I'm pretty sure I was 10 or 11, but I remember the night. I don't remember, like I said, the date, but I remember it was Halloween night, and I was at my grandma's. My parents were gone somewhere. I think they may have went to Kansas City, actually, because at that time they had season tickets to the NASCAR race, every NASCAR race up there. Yeah. And it's not too long after Kansas started their circuit. So it might have been a bit later than that. I don't remember why. It might not even have been that. But they were gone for whatever reason. I had to stay the night at my grandma's. She went to bed, and I did what all children do when the adults go to bed. I watch shit I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
and that was one thing. It was on USA or NBC or something, probably USA, and I watched Halloween 2. I caught the very end of Halloween. Never watched Halloween before. I caught the very end of Halloween, and I know that because the last scene in Halloween, the last scenes in Halloween are the very first scenes in Halloween 2. Yeah. It picks up right after. And so I know that, and it's a hospital and all that. So I know it's Halloween 2, and that was my first Halloween movie. And I was just, I don't know, this left a mark on me. Like, one, I didn't watch a lot of scary movies back then.
Yeah.
I watched shit I wasn't supposed to, but
well, I watched a lot more than than you probably did.
And this was before I watched any of the Jason movies or any of that too. So this was like the first big, I mean, I've watched Jaws up until that point. I watched some other stuff too that were a lot lighter, but never a slasher movie, just bits and pieces. But to sit down and watch a full movie when I wasn't supposed to, and it freaked me out. But yeah,
the funny thing is, I think my very first one was 2 also.
Awesome.
I know for a fact that I was 5 years old when I watched my very first one, because I went to stay with my grandma and grandpa when my mom and dad went to the hospital to go have my brother, who's 5 years younger than me, and that was the very first time I watched. And I seen Halloween 2, and then and which I wasn't supposed to be, but whatever. And then like a year later ish, I was telling Grandma that I watched that at her house, and she's like, "Oh no, now I got some stuff to show you." And so then she made me sit there and watch like 1 through 4 or 5 all in one sitting, like a whole day, and it was.
I remember my mom.
It was kind of traumatizing at the same time as awesome, but it was awesome.
My mom and dad weren't gone to Kansas City. They must have went to some other get-together because they were not gone on time, because she picked me up the next morning. I remember this now. She'd picked me up and asked me how everything went, and I said, yeah, it's fine. And I told her, I said, yeah, I watched a scary movie last night. And she's like, oh, was it Halloween or something? And I said, actually, yeah, it was Halloween too. And it's like, it scared the hell out of me, but it was awesome. And she's like, yeah. And that's when she told me about all of her. But she wasn't even, I was expecting her to be mad at me, because I was still pretty young, really. But back, it's a lot different than it was. Because even like when I was 11, that was 18 years ago. So already, I guess now. So back then, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, half of the shit that we have now wasn't out, obviously, right? Yeah. We have a lot of shock value kind of movies out there now. Yeah. That, like, Scream was out by that time. Yeah. Obviously. And then those Scream movies and some other stuff. But we haven't hit near yet what we were going to see as far as, like, when the Saw movies come out and all that shit.
No.
So,
not even close.
Yeah, so that you just didn't watch shit like that. You know what I mean? There wasn't that. And now kids these days are watching the craziest stuff. Yeah. Like, at a young age. So you gotta understand, like, back then, that was pretty big for me. That was pretty big for a lot of people. And even further back, it's no different than the people who, I mean, even adults who were scared and throwing up and nervous and freaking out when they just watched The Exorcist in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's huge.
Well, that's a good segue into my first time seeing it. I actually saw it a couple Halloweens ago for the first time.
Oh, really? So it's been recent.
I don't know how I avoided it that long. I guess I was such a Friday fan. I just never looked into it. But I actually rented it from your store and watched it. And I can remember as an adult fast forwarding through it, not because I was bored, but because the tension was so high.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that's kind of a shame for me to admit. But I was like,
no. Man, I mean,
see, that's the thing, and I actually want to do a show on this later on about scary movies, because I think even though the stuff that's coming out now is way over the top, it's way crazy. Everything is paranormal.
That's a lot of it now,
and there's always, it's really sickening. Every shot has to be a shock. Everything has to be a jump scare. And somehow Halloween is still scarier than all these new movies.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
You can't fake a feeling. And these new movies, they try to fake a feeling. And you can't. You can't fake fear. Even though they try to. You know, they have the jump scares. They throw music in really loud at a spot that it doesn't belong. Well, Halloween didn't do that. It used music. But whenever it used the music, it actually deserved the music.
Right. Well, and everybody who worked on these films, especially the first one, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
They have much to work with. I mean, you had Dean Cundy, who has been involved in literally everything you like.
Yeah.
Like from The Fog, Halloween, The Thing, I think.
Yeah.
Escape from New York. Yeah. Then he worked on Twister. He's worked on Back to the Future. He's worked on Jurassic Park. He's been around
everything good,
everything fucking good,
everything good in life.
For the last 40 years, he has been involved in.
We salute you, sir.
Yes, one of the best cinematographers ever. And definitely my favorite. So with him being involved, Tommy Lee Wallace doing what he did, contributing how he did.
Yeah.
John and Deborah Hill just doing it's just a couple dumb kids, like young kids that were just not dumb at all, but just trying to make a movie.
Yeah.
They're just trying to make a movie and trying to make something out of it.
For peanuts.
Yeah, exactly. They barely got the $300,000.
Yeah, they had no idea it was going to do this.
No.
They had no idea.
Budget of $300,000, which is nothing, really. I mean, it was nothing. It's a B movie.
Yep.
It really is. And you can tell when you watch it, it's a B movie, but it's so... No, you can't, though. Like, I don't even mean that. Like, in certain places, yes.
Yeah.
You can see the low budget. But you could, you can see the lower budget in Friday the 13th and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The first couple. So, but I think it holds up even better, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like
I think the scariness.
The
scariness,
mood, the setting, you got the character development, the definitely the lighting for sure.
Yeah.
Which goes along with that. The way it was shot, and then
they ratchet you up with those daylight scenes of him stalking those girls so much that when it finally gets dark, you're like, oh.
Well, and that's something to say about the movie is like actually the majority of it takes place during the day.
The first, and
it's still scary. It's still scary as shit.
Well, you just don't know who this. I mean, you don't really know who this guy is. You don't know what's going on. To see that mask from a distance, even in the daytime, is frightening.
Yeah,
and they don't know what's going on. He's driving this car, acting weird. Him behind the hedge and slowly moving behind the hedge and then being gone.
Yeah.
Him behind the laundry that was waving in the background, or in the yard. I mean, in the backyard. And then she drops the window and then he's gone. That was just amazing.
Yeah. How's he so fast? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
how's he so fast?
He warped out of there.
Yeah, like is he Jason? Because Jason can warp.
Well, I
think Michael can.
No, I don't think so.
Think he's just that fast?
I think he's fast.
Man, but his cardio must be top notch.
That really goes to show. Like, I like how they done it because it makes you think, or it makes Jamie Lee Curtis's character, makes Laurie Strode think, "Am I going crazy?"
Yeah,
like I think he was in my backyard, but. At the same time, he moves so quick as he's gone.
Yeah.
In the daytime. So, I don't know. All the music was well timed.
Yeah.
Not just awesome, but
it's
well
not so much. It's not so much the score is amazing. The music is haunting.
Yes.
But it's not so much the music as it is the timing of the music, I think. Carpenter knew exactly where he wanted stuff. He knew when to start it. He knew what sounds needed to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he had such a great vision for
There's a lot of people working on that movie. I don't know. It does make you kind of wonder at the what's going through people's minds like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, because he's so... If you'd listen to anything that they do, especially John, he's like, oh, we're just doing shit.
Yeah.
Like, we were just doing stuff to make, and this is obviously not quoting him, but he's basically saying, we're just trying to make a movie. We're just trying to make this thing work. We didn't think it was going to be any good. And, I mean, so it makes you wonder, like, the shots he was doing, did he know they were good? Like, does he know? Like, he was just using different tricks that he had learned, and
I think he knows. I think he's just so I don't want to say modest, but I think he just wants everybody to think that it comes to him so easy. Yeah, he just kind of blows it off because he does that with every movie I've ever seen him talk about.
Oh yeah, it's no big
He's
deal.
like, I just kind of did it.
Talking about shots, that opening tracking shot.
Yeah.
Where you're going through the house, all in one take.
Yes, all in one.
Yeah.
And
Deborah Hill.
Yeah, Deborah Hill. That was her hands.
Yeah, grabbing the knife. She's the one that did all that at the beginning. Yeah, Deborah Hill did. That was awesome. That was one of the first shots of its kind, wasn't it?
I believe, I think it was.
I'm the Halloween fan here. I don't know why I'm asking Friday the 13th fan, but I know we've been. I haven't watched special features and stuff like that in so long, and I don't know if you guys have watched it yet. But I know the one track shot was like the one shot thing was awesome. And
because they would come through and then they would have to move equipment off to the side.
Yeah,
come through another room.
I did watch some special features where it was actually Deborah Hill. She was talking about how when she went upstairs, she could hear all the grip guys downstairs like moving all the stuff as fast as they possibly could to get it back to normal. Like that's crazy.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because that house was not the way it was.
No.
Like it was a mess.
Yeah.
So it was amazing though what they did with that. There was another couple shots that I really liked. I think one of my favorite shots though was later in the movie. Two of them. One was the very top of the staircase.
Okay.
When she finally fell off when she fell through the staircase or fell over the staircase and rolled down, hurt her ankle, and he'd come back real quick and just stopped and paused for a second.
Yeah.
At the top of the staircase, and there's actually some stills on that now you can find on the internet that look amazing.
Yeah.
And then the other shot was him coming towards her at night.
Yeah.
Back when she ran across back to the house she was sitting at, back to Tommy, and he was coming through the dark and coming across the road.
Yeah.
That's like props to Nick Castle, because it's just such a goofy story how he was there in the first place.
Yeah.
He's just a friend hanging out, and they're like, here, I like the way you walk.
Yeah.
Throw the mask
on.
And he did. He was awesome.
Yeah.
And everything he did, just his whole, I don't know.
I think my favorite shot of the whole movie is when Jamie Lee's backed up to the wall, and then you see half of his mask in the. It just
slowly
darkness.
Comes into the light.
Dude, that was a
trick shot
terrifying.
Or something they done, but that was
so
amazing.
Terrifying.
I agree. That was another one.
It
haunted
me most of my life.
And then of course that well-timed music.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there's way more shots that I like that I'm not thinking of, but that one right there is the one that really just pops out at me.
Yeah.
I think my favorites are just him around the hedges, just standing.
Yeah. Just standing like right out by the
creeper.
Yeah.
I call them the creeper shots.
Yeah, all the daytime shots were awesome.
Yeah.
And, well, the one outside the classroom, just standing above the and then he was gone.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I think the most fascinating thing, which I mean, I've seen the movie hundreds of times now. It seems like
every Halloween
for sure. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
But I think the more fascinating thing to me now is all the behind the scenes stuff, all the stuff that they, what had to go through the process of making such an iconic, legendary movie. And of course the budget. We talked about the budget and the success of that. I love the success story of it, because obviously all of them were just thinking it was going to be a total failure.
Yeah.
And it started off so bad. And I think it started out in Kansas City, actually.
Really?
They aired it and they started showing it in Kansas City.
I think I heard that.
I think they started showing it in Kansas City, and then and if they didn't start it, it took off there. It was something like that.
Yeah, there was something.
But
he said something in a special features.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 weeks in, and people started getting the word of mouth at it. The word of mouth traveled, and then all of a sudden it was a hit, and so it was weeks.
Yeah, it
was weeks and months before.
Because they thought they had a flop on their hands.
Yes, exactly. Because it just did not do anything the first. I think it made so much the first week, and then it dropped. and then it just caught on somewhere down the line a few weeks ago, like a few weeks later, and then it just slowly picked back up, and then it ended up making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most successful low budget films of all time, and that to me that's just an awesome story.
Yeah.
Coming from a huge fan like that.
Yeah. But. Well, one is, if it wasn't for Halloween 1, slashers wouldn't exist today like they do.
Right.
I mean, they wouldn't.
No, it's...
You have to give him the credit.
And, they did. They had some slasher movies.
Yeah.
They had Black Christmas.
Nothing like this.
No, nothing like this. No,
nothing
this
like
was a
this.
whole different thing that spawned... Well, I mean, like, Psycho could be attributed to that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Psycho, stuff like that. Halloween come along and it just revitalized everything, and then and Halloween is like, that's the reason why you have Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
yep.
That's the why you said let's rip off.
Right.
Halloween.
Yeah. Like that's why you have Friday the 13th. That's why you have Freddy. That's why you have all these other Terror Train, Halloween copy just on a train.
Yeah.
And Scream. Scream took a lot from Halloween.
Yeah.
But Scream, I'll give it to Wes Craven because Scream made something more out of it.
Yeah,
but it was self-aware and it was a lot cool. We'll have to do some of those one of these days because I like those films too. But everything could just about be owed to Halloween. Like
it could. Yeah,
it really could.
And they have to. And I think most of them do. I think most of them will give the credit to Halloween.
Yeah. Well, when you're trying to make a movie, even in later films, even though it never worked out, they always say in the special features or in the making of or in their interviews, they always say, "Well, we're trying to go back to the original. We're trying to capture the essence of the original, even though they never did."
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's a whole thing that you just can't.
You can't recreate.
You can't recreate something so great.
You might get elements of it, but you're not.
You will. Yeah,
exactly.
Everything.
Well, that and what's creepy too is the blue lighting they used.
Yeah.
They used the blue lighting in the backgrounds to really make it a lot spookier. I thought. It just added more to it.
Yeah, it did.
One thing about the Halloween movies, and for the most part, and especially this one, was characters. And one thing I struggled with, like on our Friday the 13th podcast, and you're probably a lot better at this than I am, was characters. I've seen those movies several times over. I watched them all just like not even a month ago. I think it was a month or two ago, and it was so hard for me. I remembered most of what was in the movies, but I couldn't ever remember what parts were in what movies, and I can't remember a lot of characters. I can remember their faces, but I can't remember their names.
Having seen most of these once, that's kind of how I am with this franchise.
Right, and that's to be expected in a new franchise. But I will say that I find it way easier. Which, of course, there's not as many people. In every Friday the 13th movie, there's like 8 counselors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it seems like there's 7 or 8 people.
Well, with Halloween, they a lot of the characters, or well, not a lot of them, but there's several characters that don't die.
Right.
Right away anyway.
There's a lot more supporting characters that get a lot more
screen time.
They get screen time. They're developed better.
Yeah.
They have a place.
Yeah.
The only place
they're not just horny teens. I mean, some of them are, but they're not just horny teens.
Yeah, they're not all just horny teens
like most
that are red shirts.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of red shirts. I won't say that, but you know what I mean. Like I feel like a lot of characters in this franchise mean something more than a lot of the Friday the 13th or even the Freddy movies.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember half the fucking.
I can't remember any of the people from Freddy movies
other than the first one.
Yeah,
I can't remember half the. Well, and I remember the third one because Dream Warriors was awesome. But, I remember more of the kids from Freddy vs. Jason. Yeah, because it was.
Well, I don't remember any of their names.
I'll give you that.
I'll give you that. You know what I mean? But Jamie Lee, I actually give a shit what happens to her.
To Laurie Strode,
yeah, and you guys will find out later when we do the second half of this. You'll find out that I really do give a shit about Jamie Lee. I give a shit about what happens to her. And I really care about Dr. Loomis too.
Yeah.
How much of a kick in the nuts would it be to be a accredited psychologist and you go around and you're telling all these people that this kid is pure evil, He's going to kill.
He is dangerous.
He is extremely dangerous.
Yes.
And all of your colleagues are like, nah.
Yeah. Dr. Loomis, I know you're the one that's...
I know you're the professional. You're the guy. You're the actual children's psychologist.
Yeah.
But we're going to override
you're the one that spent months and months, hours and hours with the kid.
Yeah.
But we're going to completely disregard all that, and we're going to make him a ward of the state. We're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then they had the fucking nerve several times over throughout the franchise, especially in the second one.
Oh, yeah, especially
to get, like, to find him annoying, or you let him out, or, why didn't you warn people? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Why didn't you warn people?
This motherfucker told everybody that you have insufficient security here to hold him.
Yeah.
And you should not. But you looked at him as a 6-year-old boy in a catatonic.
Yeah.
And you didn't. Anyway, that's when you get more into the depth of Michael Myers, which I think is cool. And you don't really have a lot of that. I think you have more out of him than you do any other slasher icon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like Jason does have.
They focus on Michael more than most.
Well,
slashers.
the thing is Jason is driven by revenge. And like by his mother's will and his revenge, Michael's just soulless.
Evil.
He's just pure evil, and you don't. That's way different.
Yeah,
that's a whole Jason just doesn't have any moral compass. You know what I mean? He has no more. He's not even a real thing. He's just a.
You could say that Freddy has a neat backstory.
I guess so. The child rapist, I guess so.
Probably neat's probably the wrong word to say.
Neat's not a very good.
And that's why my wife watched the first 4 of these with me recently, and she actually prefers Michael Myers over Jason. And I was like, what? And she's like, well, it's because Dr. Loomis says he is pure evil.
Yeah, it's pure evil.
There's a reason for
it's deeper. Does. It's deeper. It means
is
something.
Deeper.
He's not just a zombie running around.
No, he doesn't have a little silly thing. He just, they make it that way later.
Yeah, they make it that way.
But the first couple... Even in 2, when they made it about his sister, it was still, he was trying to kill her, but you still don't know what this guy's about.
Yeah.
You still don't know. It's still pure evil. You just don't know. It's unpredictable. As far as Dr. Loomis goes, Donald Pleasance was the best thing about this franchise.
Oh yeah,
and one of the best things about the franchise, and all of his ramblings and dialogue in the first couple, especially the first one, was excellent.
Yeah.
Just talking about evil, and then you have the eerie music in the background when they're in the old Myers house and stuff. I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I actually give a shit about Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
And,
well,
it's
easy.
He's Donald, like you said, Donald Pleasance is
amazing.
He's my favorite character.
Yeah,
and that's saying a lot. Michael Myers should be the favorite character.
Well,
really. It's focused on him. This whole movie's about him.
And he is.
But still, Dr. Loomis is my favorite.
Sure.
Just because
how do you replace somebody?
Well, see, here's the thing. My thing about Dr. Loomis, the reason why he's my favorite, is he knows that Michael Myers is pure evil. And he's terrified of him. Just absolutely just terrified of Michael Myers. But he still goes to help everybody out.
Oh yeah.
He's still, even though he's terrified of it, he could just run away.
Well, he's the only one. He knows he's the only one that can warn people, even though they're not listening. He's the only people that can really do anything about it.
Another one is the little boy. I think his name's Tommy. The little boy,
Tommy Doyle. Yeah,
he tries to warn people too.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, he's seen him,
the boogeyman.
He's seen the boogeyman, and he's trying to tell people, and they're like,
That's one thing I actually really liked about them throwing that in. They threw the boogeyman thing in there.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I thought that was special about the...
Yeah.
I also like there's a thing when they were talking about the making of, John Carpenter was talking about Pleasance, and Pleasance came up to Carpenter and asked him, now, when I shoot him at the end and he falls off the balcony and I look and he's gone, how do you want me to play this? Do you want me to play it like, oh my God, he's gone? Or do you want me to play it like, oh my God, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this would happen. And he said, well, why not both? Let's just do both. And of course it worked out, and he did the kind of both. It was mostly like, I knew this was happen. And then John Carpenter's like, that's pretty cool. Shows you the signs of a great actor, because he was trying to get me to decide for him.
Yeah.
and that was, he wanted me to direct.
Yeah.
But Loomis was right in that direction. It just worked out better that way. He knew it the whole time.
Oh yeah.
You knew Pleasance knew it the whole time. I knew this would happen. Given the history, you knew this would happen. So there's just a lot of special things that come out of the first movie, and I could probably sit and talk about the first movie all day. We don't have all day, but what's funny about the first movie? I didn't even watch it until years after the second one.
Really?
Yeah, like I'd watched the second one that night, and like I said, I caught the tail end of the first one, and it was probably, I know it was probably at least 4 years,
really,
4 or 5 years before I finally got. Well, I didn't have any of the tapes. I didn't have any of the NES tapes, VHS tapes. I didn't have any of the DVDs.
Yeah.
When they came out, I didn't have any of that. I think one of the video stores had closed, and then the video store I now own at the time was already in business. But they only had the first Halloween, and it was an extended TV cut. They added the TV version footage in there, and they've released that DVD as the full thing. So I didn't rent it. I rented it later, but the first time I'd actually watched it was on like FX or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, like because I looked for it every year after that, and like USA Network would play Halloween 2 constantly.
Huh.
It like just random times throughout the year.
Think two's probably more.
Well, it was Universal.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Universal had the rights.
Yeah, that's right.
And
that's because USA is owned by Universal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they ran Halloween 2 constantly. And
that's annoying though.
I know.
Isn't it?
So all these years I just watched Halloween 2 over and over again whenever it was on TV, and finally FX come in. There's FX or something like that. Finally one Halloween it's like near Halloween anyway, they showed it. Yeah. And I finally got to sit down and watch it.
Huh. And
and I loved it, of course, but it was years later.
Yeah.
And actually, and it's pretty funny about the first Halloween, the TV version. Those footage that was shot for the TV version, they didn't have a long enough film. The theatrical cut wasn't long enough when they aired it for the first time on NBC in 1981. So they had to go back. During the filming of Halloween 2, they actually had to go in and film a few extra scenes. One, to make 2 make sense, but also to fill that 2-hour slot. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. And I like what they added.
I did too. You
know?
The first scene with him is like a few months later after Mike had killed his sister, and then Dr. Loomis was talking to other doctors, I guess. And was basically warning them that, this is pure evil. You can't do that. You have to move him. You have to go to maximum security ward and not leave him here at Smith Grove. And of course, they're just like, well, it's already been decided.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much whatever. Don't care. That was the first time, that was another time you'd seen. That was actually the first time, other than in 2, where you've seen people really just flat out dismiss him.
Yeah.
Because Sheriff Brackett kind of more or less took him serious and helped him out. Dr. Wynn just played dumb at the end, like, oh my God, we didn't know this was going to happen, and that was, I guess that was the scene. But yeah, for God's sake, Sammy can't drive.
Yeah,
and he was doing it. But
yeah,
he was a very good driver.
Yeah, he was a very good driver. It was weird. There's a lot of things about the movie that just don't add up well, but it works out.
The whole driving thing really gets me.
Yeah, that was a little weird,
but
whatever, it made it work.
Yeah.
He was driven by evil.
Yeah.
So evil can drive cars, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, Maximum Overdrive just go to show you that evil can drive cars. You don't even need people to be in them.
The other deleted scene was right after that, where he'd walked back down the hall and went into the room with Michael, who was still a boy, 6 months later. And whoever that kid actor was in that scene was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because the eyes.
Yeah.
Like
he does a little gesture with his eyes.
Yeah.
And it just chills me to the fucking bone, man.
He like, you could see the anger in his eyes.
Yeah.
And like whoever it was did a good job, even if it was by accident. It was a great job. And then when he said you fooled them, haven't you?
Yeah, he like flutters,
and then
he looks up.
He kind of does this. He squints, and he says, "But not me." And then he flutters. Yeah. He doesn't move his eyes. He just kind of his eyelids just kind of flutter a little bit.
Yeah.
And then but he just sit there staring out the window, barely blinking. I think he blinked a couple times. He looked angry. Yeah. It was awesome. It was an awesome scene. And there's a couple other scenes that didn't really make a shit, but it was all right.
There was the one where Loomis goes into the room after he escaped.
Yeah, it was after he escapes. Yeah.
On the back of the door, sister is scratched into the
Explained
door.
how everybody got out. He went down the hall and busted everybody out, and then he scratched
just to clarify for the second movie,
right? Because the sister and the second movie, was 1981, and Carpenter didn't come back for that. I think he felt like it was, well, he did come back for it technically, but I think he felt like everything that was to be told about Michael was done.
Yeah.
And didn't know what else to do with it.
He had probably just came off of Escape from New York at that time.
Yeah, and he did. Yeah. And he's like, well, I don't really know what to do. And of course they're like, well, we made so much money and we just have to make another one. It's just the way. And of course you can see the bigger budget in this film, but he didn't know where to go with it. And I guess he just racked his brain. And I think he's admitted, him and Deborah Hill both admitted that it was a drunken 3 a.m. kind of night where they just decided, well, it's his sister, and then they just went with it, and he, so that was just an awful idea, I guess. But I guess looking back, I don't really care anymore.
Yeah,
but
well, see, I always thought it was cool, and then
it gave him a reason. I don't think it took the fear completely out of it. I just think that, but all the mystery, that they had before is kind of half gone, and it's like, so that just takes away from it. So I get why people didn't like it.
Yeah.
I get why it was kind of a bad idea, I guess. But Tommy Lee Wallace was supposed to do it, and I guess he didn't want to do anything with it either because he just didn't like the script. And they ended up giving it to Rick Rosenthal, who had actually shot most of the movie. And then after they watched it, John Carpenter I think it was John Carpenter who watched it and said that this was about as scary as an episode of Quincy.
Yeah.
And most people won't know what Quincy is. But so he went back and actually changed it. He actually went back and did a lot of edits and stuff because at that time, it's 81, you had 2 Friday the 13th by then and some other stuff that's been copies that went into that gory market. There's a lot different in just those 3 years. So they went in and added a lot more blood and gruesome deaths. But I like to. I think most people like to.
I love to.
Yeah, and it was my first one, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I love it. I think there's a lot of scenes. There's a lot of things I don't like. There's a few things I don't like. Most of it I love.
Well, the reason, I'm the same way you are. That 2 was my very first one, but the reason that I love 2 is, I love anytime there is a second movie and they continue it from where the first one left off.
I know. Yeah.
I love it.
I did. Yeah.
Even if it's not that good.
Yeah. Well, that's what was really special about this. Like, this literally picked up moments after it ended.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that about it.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing about it. And the hospital setting, terrifying.
Yeah.
I can see that. It's probably my 3rd or 4th favorite in the series. I'd say a lot of that's chalked up to Jamie Lee Curtis is only in it for 20-25 minutes.
Out of all of the shots,
first or second build.
Yeah.
So
well, after being such a central focus of the first one, right. And it really just came down to everybody else versus him getting to her. I think in a way it built suspense though. Like I think in a way it showed this is, how much she can do. How much can you do with a cracked bone in her ankle and her wrist or whatever, and then she messed up her ankle real bad, and how much can you do? And I think there was something else that's she couldn't do much. I can't remember. I'll have to look that. I can't remember now. I should know this, but
she'd been drugged by the doctor.
Well, that was a lot of it too. But why they had written her into not doing much? That's what I mean. I can't remember now.
That just
wrote the character to where she, and maybe that's what it was always tended. I just can't remember now. I may be thinking of...
May have had something to do with the shooting schedule and she was busy or something.
Yeah.
It could have been. Yeah. It could have been. But I just can't remember. But either way, it was more focused on the people of the town reacting.
Yeah.
The people around her, the people at the hospital. Eventually, it all... And it was kind of nice because it was a good build-up to where they finally were supposed to cross.
Yeah.
And it built up that suspense, I thought, a little bit. I thought it worked okay. I mean, I did. It sucked that she wasn't in it as much, but at the same time, I understand. Because it showed how alive everything was, and then all of a sudden, it was more and more secluded. It got darker and darker. Power was out. Less and less people in between him and her, and then and then he shows up and and of course she's gone. She's already left by that point. Come out of it and wander in the halls trying to get down. But I thought that was awesome. I think that was another thing too. And I was telling him before we come on, but the thing that was so different, of course you can tell the budget difference. They were able to get more extras and more people and more shit involved, so it was a way bigger thing. But in the first one, they didn't have a lot of stuff going on. They didn't have a lot of extras, especially Halloween, especially back in those days, was a lot busier time. You had fucking people everywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, in the first one, you had your trick-or-treaters when they first got to the houses, and it showed him outside, which was another cool shot from the first one. And this one, and I don't know if it was because of everything. I mean, everybody else was out partying. So really it wasn't this, but I think some places, it just seemed like everybody was in for the night and gone in the first one, which was spooky. But in this one, it was like everyone was just on another end of town.
Yeah.
Like everybody was off doing their thing, and this street was quiet, and maybe it's an older street with older folks or something. Maybe they'd gone to bed. Maybe that's why. But town was still alive. Town was still bumping. And it was definitely alive now because the news broke out that Michael Myers was on the loose and he just killed some kids. So everyone's in an uproar. Everyone's going crazy. Everyone's checking out the houses. They're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. Everybody else is partying and doing their own thing. So, I mean, I thought that's another reason why I like 2.
Yeah.
Because it showed the liveliness of the town. It showed the Halloween part of the town. It showed him getting through the trying to figure out where she was and then go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 2. I'd have to say 2 is my second favorite. I mean, I always have to put 1 first.
Yeah.
Right.
The feeling of 1 can't be beat.
Yeah.
But 2 is definitely my second favorite, just because like I said earlier, I love when a movie picks up from the last one, and I love the setting of the hospital. I can't think of anything other,
Well, we talked about the Midwest town thing.
Yeah.
Like how scary that is to be in a secluded area or a small town area, and that's what was so creepy about 1. It felt like it was real. It felt like it could happen, it felt like it was in a town like ours.
Yeah,
because we can relate. And 2 was similar because it was still kind of small, but it was bigger. The reason why 2 is so creepy being in the hospital is because everyone fucking hates hospitals.
Yeah.
Well,
and I think hospitals are a perfect setting for a scary movie. I think schools are a perfect setting for a scary movie.
Schools, stuff like that,
Anything where there's always a lot of people moving around, and then all of a sudden there's not, and it's dark. That's scary, man.
Oh, yeah. Was there anything you liked about 2 or didn't like about 2? Anything else?
No, not really. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a strong movie. There's some others I liked just a little bit better.
Yeah. I thought it was a worthy sequel. I thought it was strong. In my opinion, it's one of the strongest sequels they have. But again, like I said, I'm probably biased. I'm a little biased because it was my first one, and I really liked a lot of scenes in it.
Yeah.
For me, it was probably the second best mask.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
The first one and then the second one. I don't know. It was a little different, but it was still that Shatner look. It still had a little bit of a look. Dick Warlock was a smaller guy than Castle. Plus, they had it was cut off differently at a lower length. Like, it was cut off up higher, And they had the collar. Like, they had the full collar around it. It was weird, and it wasn't open. So that was a little different. In some scenes, they did, but in some scenes...
Yeah, they used it. Sometimes it looked like they used... like
footage or something.
Yeah, footage from the first one.
Yeah, and I don't think they did.
Yeah, I don't think they
only
did.
In the first part, I
don't
think
think
was
they
the
did.
same.
They probably used the same mask and just didn't tell nobody.
No, well, it was a different mask.
I know that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying there's probably some shots that they had different masks.
Oh yeah, it was
You know
some
what I
kind
mean?
of different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the mask from the first one was already fucked up by then.
Yeah,
like it was gone.
Yeah.
I think it was already tore up and gone by then. I think, but yeah, that was definitely the second best mask. Dick Warlock's walk was not as good as Castle's, but it's one of the fan favorites now because it's so unique. It's so weird, so zombie-like. Just, I don't know. Not Rob Zombie.
He was slower, but
robotic.
Yeah, like robotic.
Methodical.
Yeah.
Not even methodical, just methodical. I don't even know if that's
he was methodical.
I guess it made methodical.
Chasing her in the bowels of the building, and she's trying to get in the elevator.
Yeah, and he's just really, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was, I guess so. Yeah, that was definitely, it was still creepy though. And it was even, what was weird is like the scalpel thing, him carrying around the scalpel the whole time was so weird because it's such a contrast to the big butcher knife.
Yeah.
But to me, that was just as creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Like a scalpel's fucking creepy.
Did I already say what my favorite scene was?
I don't know if you did or not.
My favorite, I may have, but if I did, it was wrong because my favorite scene is when he picks up, I think her name's Jackie.
Jill.
I
think it might be Jill.
Yeah, Nurse Jill.
I think it's Jill.
Either way.
Yeah.
Stabs her in the back, picks her up, and her shoes fall off on the ground.
That was a cool moment. That was the first
scene.
time she'd seen in Jamie's eyes. Yeah. And then he just drops her.
Yeah.
And then done it. And then that was like
best
another
scene in the
time.
movie.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Definitely one of the best scenes in the movie. I also liked the little scene too, where Karen got out of her car. She showed up at the hospital and got out of her car, and then when she opened the door and closed the door, his face was in the side mirror.
Yeah.
It showed him there, and he was already there.
Yeah.
I like the scene where he gets the cop inside the hospital.
Yeah.
And she's right there.
Mm-hmm.
That was
good.
Scene.
That was pretty good. Was it the one at the end? You mean?
Yeah.
Like he grabbed him. He's not breathing, and he grabs him and then slits his throat. Yeah.
Like, you idiot.
Yeah, you fucking idiot. Oh man, yeah, that was a good scene. Him busting through the window was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool, but at the same time weird.
Yeah.
But he's just such a small looking guy in that movie. Just the way he walked, his shoulders were just so small. I like Dick Warlock though. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. I tell you what really fucked me up when I was a kid watching that though was Alice's death.
Really?
Which wasn't in the TV version that they always aired, but yeah, when he come out of that corner, out of the dark corner, and jumped up and then grabbed her and then stabbed her, and her face went up and the blood splattered up on her chin.
Yeah.
Mind you, like I said, I was 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
I was like, oh fuck, this pretty young innocent girl just got killed, and I was pretty new to slashers by this time, so I was like, I was fucking scarred a little bit. That was one of the very back before you see a lot of gruesome shit, when you're first seeing this stuff for the first time. At that point, that was one of it was one of the worst deaths I've ever seen. One of the worst kills that just stuck with me in my head.
Yeah.
Up until that point, so I think it stayed with me for a bit. Sometimes they just do that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was young as fuck. I don't know.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even the way it is. It's just the character. Yeah,
just the way it's sold or something. Sometimes, and she was not even a big character. She was literally in it for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh fuck, and of course she had nothing to do with any of it. I mean,
no, she was just there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other ones were only killed because they were friends with Laurie. Yeah. Like I'm guessing, like that was what was going to stand in the way. It was kind of interesting though. He kind of showed them off, like he planted all their bodies and stuff for her to find.
Yeah,
it's weird, but it's interesting. So,
now. Should we move on to the non-Halloween?
The bastard child, one of the bastard child. Yeah, Halloween 1 and 2 were great, but 3 was not so well received.
No,
and only throughout the years has it really garnered a big following, a cult following. Tom Lee Wallace came back. Deborah Hill asked him if he wanted to come back, and he did, and said they're not bringing Michael Myers back, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it. Jumped on, loved it. Because everybody was done. Deborah was done. John Carpenter was done. Tommy Lee Wallace was done in the second one. That's why he left the second one. So, It's interesting. I know that it took me probably several years to really like this film.
Yeah.
Firstly, my reaction, and mind you, this is before I had internet and all that shit, and before I'd watched any of the other ones. I'd watched 2, and then I'd watched 2 for years. And I'm not even, you know what, I might even have watched 3 before I watched 1.
Oh, wow.
Because they'd played 2 and sometimes 3 and then 4 and 5 and stuff. I might have even watched 4 and 5 before I watched 1, now that I think about it, because they just played all these movies.
3 was a Universal thing, so it's probably on USA.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That was just, yeah, exactly. But everything else was just on AMC or a channel of some kind before they'd ever showed 1, and it finally took a forever. Now they play 1 all the time, but for some reason, for years there, I'd never seen it on. Anyway, I think I'd watched this beforehand, and because it was on one Saturday morning. I'd watched 2, which was the 100th time I'd watched it by this point, and 3 come on. I'm like, oh shit, they never play 3. I'm gonna watch it. Didn't know Michael Myers wasn't in it, just like a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And I sat there for 30 minutes waiting, like, what is this? This is weird.
Yeah.
Like, when is he gonna come on? Never happened.
They must have labeled this wrong.
Yeah, and I literally watched the whole fucking thing, waiting for something to happen.
Waiting for him, yeah.
And he showed up.
Yeah. Yeah, on the TV.
On a TV.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing I got to say is 3. I've spent most of my life thinking that I hated 3. Because, I get most of my opinions on scary movies from my grandma. Because she loves them more than I do.
Yeah, yeah.
And she hated this movie because she went to the theater expecting Michael Myers, and she didn't get no Michael Myers, and that pissed her off. And 35 years later, she's still pissed off about it. I guarantee if you called her right now and asked her, she'd probably rant in your ear for an hour.
Yeah, not for waking her up.
No,
but for
just for. Yeah. I guarantee you, if you brought this movie up, she'd be pissed that you woke her up.
Oh yeah,
I guarantee it.
Yeah. She'd be pissed you're
but,
alive.
Even though I spent most of my life hating this movie, I didn't realize until recently, and Andrew was saying, after he watched it, he said he actually liked it. And so then I started thinking about what happens in it and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Like, it's a pretty good movie. It's just not, it just wasn't a Halloween movie, It should have been called Season of the Witch. Not Halloween Season of the Witch. It should have just been called Season of the Witch.
And I knew from you guys talking about it that he wasn't in it.
Yeah. And, so you knew ahead of time.
I knew ahead of time. And I watched it a couple weeks ago, and I just absolutely loved the weirdness.
Yeah.
Of
it was
movie.
Weird.
Strange movie. My wife hated it.
Yeah.
The point where the little kid goes down in the floor and the bugs and everything comes out.
Snakes, yeah.
Funny
that
story.
Was pretty gruesome.
Yeah. Funny story. I was rewatching it again last night, and my daughter hears the little commercial come on.
Yeah.
And she comes in. She goes, "That is awesome!" Yeah. Snakes crawling out of the mask, and I'm like, "Sit down, child. We're gonna
watch this." Yeah, you actually went back and watched it again, didn't you?
Yeah. Of all these movies, I rewatched 3 and 4. Watched them twice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love this one.
Yeah, 3 was really cool, and like I said, it took me several years to get over that and then really sit down and appreciate it as I got older, and really appreciate what the movie was. And I did, and I agree. I think it should have just been called Season of the Witch. I feel bad for Tommy Wallace.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
Like, I really feel bad for him, and I know he was disappointed. And I think he's cool with it now because he sees the fans.
Yeah, the cult following.
The cult following, and he appreciates that. But it was a flop, and it was a failure by anybody else's standards.
Yeah.
And
as soon as everybody found out that Michael Myers wasn't in it, news spread like wildfire. It was do not watch this. It doesn't have Michael Myers in it.
Don't feel too bad for him. He got to direct it, and he made a ton off of it.
Oh sure. Yeah. He's still one of the best around, and as far as those old cool movies. I like Tommy Lee Wallace. I don't feel too bad for him, but I did at the time just because this should have been appreciated a lot more back then. But but at least it is now, and I'm at least he's alive to see some kind of appreciation for it, because it's the bastard child of the series, but it's one of the better ones. I think.
Yeah.
And it's in the top. It's in my top 5 or 6, I'd say, for sure. Which, I mean, there's like 12 movies if you count zombies, but it's definitely in the top 5, I'd say, for me. But, you know, there's obviously other choices. They're obviously going to include the more Michael Myers movies, but this was huge. I mean, this is a really fucking good movie, and I wish I would have gave it a chance earlier, but I don't know. Like, it's just so fucking weird, like you said.
Yeah.
And Carpenter helped with the music, and the music was awesome. The score was amazing for it. That was another thing that was just so great about it. All the acting was great. Tom Atkins was awesome in it.
Yeah, he's kind of a neat casting idea. He's kind of your schlubby everyman.
Yeah, he is.
I kind of like it because he's hitting on the nurses and
he's a piece of shit, kind of.
Not a very good dad. Apparently.
Not a good dad and husband. No, he had a wife.
Yeah,
you know, which is played by the girl who played Annie in Halloween, Nancy Loomis.
Really?
Or something like that.
I believe that's right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I'm drawing a blank now that we're finally here talking about this. I'm drawing a blank, and I know this every fucking day of the year. Other than that, but
3 is definitely unique. I think it's a lot more. I think it's closer to a Freddy Krueger movie than it is a Michael Myers movie.
Yeah.
I mean, not really, but you know what I mean with the creepiness.
It's just different.
And the weird stuff.
Well, and like Tommy Lee Wallace said, it's more of a pod movie. It's an invasion of the body snatchers. It's not your slasher knife film. It's not a slasher film. It's a alien kind of thing. It's a weird magical thing. It's different.
Robots and I got to give a shout out to the old man from RoboCop. What's his name? In here he's Connell Cochran.
I just drew a blank on the name.
He's the living personification of Mr. Burns from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Straight up.
The scene where he's elaborating on his plan to Tom Atkins' character, and he's back in the shadows.
Yeah,
That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
It is, yeah. Explaining to, like, you know, this is you're okay with these kids wearing masks basically, and you know this is a norm for you.
Yeah. Well, I really like the ending to 3. I thought the ending was good.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not resolved.
No, you don't really see it resolved.
There's no feel good moment for you.
No.
It's like there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, it ended like a lot of horror movies do, but
it's gonna happen. Yeah. Tough shit, kid.
The chick that played his little love interest on the side was awesome too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was awesome in that too. She's hot. Not that that's important.
Yeah.
It's not important. I don't want to virtue signal or something like that. Going to move into that. You know, hashtag me too. But yeah, that was a really cool film. And I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about it, to be honest with you. Like, it's just a really cool fucking film. I mean, there's so much you could talk about. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, if you're out there and you don't like it, try to watch it from a point of view of someone who already knows that Michael Myers isn't in it and appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's a good thing to say. That's you know more than likely by now, if you hadn't seen it, that Michael Myers isn't in it, and you've probably heard a lot of negative things about it.
Yeah.
And it's not the best film in the world, but it is certainly worth watching.
Oh, yeah.
Give it a chance.
It's definitely
on its own.
It's definitely worth watching more than a few other movies.
Yeah. And their idea...
a few other Halloween movies.
Their idea of what they wanted to do with the Halloween series afterwards made sense after they explained it. Like, it made sense. Yeah. Like, they were wanting to do a yearly thing.
People still didn't want that.
Though. No. It was a yearly release. They wanted a yearly release, and it was going to be something completely different every year.
I would like to have seen...
I would have liked to have seen that.
That would have been really cool.
Not that I wouldn't have seen...
They shouldn't have done number 2. If that's what they wanted to do.
They
shot themselves in the foot over that, is what they did.
Sure. But you're right. But they did. But they figured back in that day, this was before the crazy sequels. This is before the crazy sequels. So, Friday the 13th and those movies kind of done that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know who done it first. I'd say it was Friday the 13th.
Same year.
Yeah. It's pretty much same year. So, After that, it just became, piston contest.
Yeah.
Just we're making money. Why not make some more fucking money? And so, and the ones who created the series thought that they were going to be done with it and they were going to be able to end it. And, the money was there. Everybody just felt like it was the best. The fans wanted more. The fans wanted Michael Myers. And, it took a few years, but Halloween 4, then Universal lost the rights. But, we said we were going to do this in 2 parts, and we've got a lot more to cover, but we've spent a lot of time on the first 3 films, so we will pick up at number 4. We'll save all that for the next part. Got a lot more to cover then, but that will be tomorrow, and we'll just go ahead and cut it off and finish that up then. So we want to thank everybody for listening, and be sure to check out part 2 on Halloween.